Hey everyone, and welcome to this week's Factorio Friday Facts, number 397, Factoriopedia. I'm Exterminator, and thanks for joining me. And this one, pretty self-explanatory with the title, but there is obviously some very good stuff here. So this essentially adds kind of like, well, like a Wikipedia in the game though, for the 2.0 update. Now, currently we have mods that do some things like this, like FNEI and a few, and then a recipe book as well, the devs specifically mentioned. And this is basically just taking those concepts and putting them into the game natively, which is super nice. And again, as I've said many times before, generally when the devs introduce something, they can do it better than mods. Mostly, I mean, because they have access to the actual source code and can change GUIs way easier and all that stuff. So there's just a lot of different things they can do that maybe these mods couldn't do, or it would be too janky. So overall, this is just going to be really nice. But basically, the motivation, of course, was with the introduction of space age content. So Factorio already has quite a bit of stuff in it, but with space age and all these new planets and such coming, there's going to be tons of new recipes and technologies and things that are just brand new, and figuring out what everything goes into and what those things are used for. It would just be a massive headache trying to do that without something like this, and forcing someone to use a mod at that point is maybe not great. So here, and that's basically just well, kind of what I said here, but basically there's two main issues. The first one is seeing what it takes to make an item. So like green circuits, is you can mouse over it and stuff, but it's still easier in a system like this. But the real issue that they go into is, what do I make with this? Because there's no real way to see that without looking at every single item in the game and being like, oh, okay, well, this item's not in it. It's not in this item. So like not rock control units, advanced circuits for their example, is figuring out what advanced circuits are actually used in is near impossible now, like I said, without a mod or without looking at every single item in the game. So they have now introduced a way to view that way easier. So we come to the Factoriopedia. And a lot of us did notice in a previous Friday Facts, I think I may have done my Easter egg video on this, where I was like all the Easter eggs we've seen so far. And there's some interesting ones in this Friday Facts too, actually, that I should have mentioned at the beginning, that there's some good stuff that we haven't really seen yet. So there's a new button with the book icon placed conveniently between tips and tricks, and the train overview. Hiding behind this button is the new internal encyclopedia of all the useful Factorio knowledge. So basically with this, the problem becomes solved, as the advanced circuit entry not only shows all of the ingredients which you directly browse, but also shows the list of recipes using this item as an ingredient. It also provides quick reference to the technology needed to unlock the recipe, so you can quickly take a look how to get there. So yeah, super straightforward. I mean, you can get this information by mousing over it in the normal crafting menu, but this you cannot. So this, you would have had to find these each individually. I mean, obviously we kind of, for those of us who have played for years and years, know these things by heart, but with all new recipes coming and new players joining, that wouldn't be the case. So now, one thing that people mentioned, I did read through some forum comments and such, is the main complaint with this Friday Facts is that people didn't seem to like the fact that the technology like unlocked by is above the used in, because it requires you to have to scroll down to see the full thing. While that's a little thing, I would agree. I don't know how easy it is for them to rearrange GUIs. Like, I don't know if they have to literally rewrite the whole thing, or what. But if it's easier for them to rearrange, I would also hop on that boat as these other folks and say probably this is almost never used. Like, generally, you're going to want to see what's used, what it's used in, way more often than you're going to see how to unlock it. Especially because in the tech tree, you can just search like the item name and you can find the tech anyway. So I think this should be underneath the used in part. So if it's easy for them to arrange, I definitely think that should move down below this section. They say technically recipes and items and entities are independent objects, but for most of the player structures, these are tightly connected. With this in mind, we made sure that in these cases, it is always present as one merged entity. So They have an example here: item, recipe, and entity merged into one entry with all the info in one place. So again, this is just really nice because you actually get the entity info, like they said. So you get like the wire reach and the base health and all this stuff, and this would apply to all items, any item. So this is really nice. And then we can see here we have like the really tight curved rail, or just the curved rails, and then we have these diagonal rails and stuff, which they did go into in a Friday Facts quite a while ago. So if you missed that, check that out. But and then they say whenever you hover over an item, recipe, or entity, etc., we often provide lists of related entities, but since it is a tooltip, you can't really go and click these to explore further. However, in Factoriopedia is not a tooltip, so you can browse through these normally. So this is the list of accepted fuel we added to the description furnaces is now even more useful. So it sounds like you can probably click on these and then go to that page. Also, the fact it just shows it in here is super nice. So that's really, really nice. And then they go further down to say, with the rise of specialized machine space age, having the list of all the supported recipes is more useful than ever. So you can see this. This is also super, super useful, where you can just see now, okay, well, this entity can craft all of these things. And you see that the new science pack is made in this, which I don't know if they've gone into this actually. I don't know if they went, I don't think they've gone in to how to make this. So we now know it's made in a foundry, which, I mean, we know about the foundry obviously, but I don't think they've given the recipe or anything for this new science pack. We did figure it was from Vulcanus, but we now know it's made in the foundry. And then this other stuff, pretty much, I think they showed this in the Friday Facts where they went over the foundry, is where you can just basically do smelting with liquid ores and stuff like that. So you can do brick too. So that just kind of shows those. I really like the icons. This is like the same thing as this. So I guess the foundry crafts the foundry. But anyway, moving on. Looking at plans gives you mainly info about all the local resources and plan-specific recipes. So this is worth looking at deeper, I think. This just gives a brief description of the planet, but then we see day-night cycle, 1 minute and 30 seconds. So this is very awesome information. This seems... I don't know what the day-night cycle is of Factorio, or of, Factorio now, but Novice. It will be since, well, currently Novice is the only planet, but I think it's longer than this. I'm pretty sure the day-night cycle is like 7 minutes or something. I could be wrong. People can correct me. It's on the wiki, I'm sure. But this is way shorter. So the day-night cycle is going to vary per planet, which is interesting, and will just be kind of, I mean, makes sense, right? Gravity, magnetic field, pressure. Again, I'm not 100% sure what these are going to be used for. Obviously something. I've mentioned this before. It may have been in my Easter egg video where this information is here for a reason, and I'm even more convinced now because it's different on this than it was on Novice when we saw that in previous Friday Facts, I think, where they showed some of the new like remote view stuff. I think it was they showed this type of information, but it was different values. So this has some impact, and I'm assuming it has to do with maybe the space platform or launching rockets or something, or maybe other things too. But this definitely really has me intrigued since this is now the second time we've seen it, and it really does seem relevant. Solar power and atmosphere, so 400%. I don't remember what it was on Novice. I think they did show this, but that's cool. Evolution factor, 0. Robot energy usage. So this is interesting. So robot energy usage maybe is going to vary per planet, which could have to do with like gravity, perhaps, and maybe magnetic field. I don't know, but that's really interesting that this may change. And then solar power in space as well. So solar power and atmosphere. So basically solar panels are 400% effective on Vulcanus, which doesn't really make sense because wouldn't there be like a bunch of ash and stuff? Wouldn't it almost be like a volcanic or nuclear winter because the whole thing's volcanic? Like, it's kind of weird. I don't know how there's like 4 times more sun than on Novice, but that is interesting. And then of course you get more in space. We do also see exclusive recipes, so you unlock green belt. I don't know if they may have mentioned this when they showed the green belt. I don't recall, so forgive me for that, but we do now know that the green belt is unlocked on Vulcanus. I don't know if they mentioned that before. And then the connections here is really interesting. So I'm actually going to zoom in a lot more. So connections, Vulcanus obviously is this planet, but we then have it connect to two other planets. I would assume one is Novice. I don't know which one. Maybe this one. Yeah, because this one looks, that's like normal-ish water and stuff. That kind of looks like Novice. And then this is the other one, which maybe, I don't know which of the this almost looks like the very last planet they show you unlock. No, maybe not. No, I think it's one of the other ones that's like looks kind of like forest, but there's like pink and stuff on here, which is really interesting to me. So this I find curious. So does this mean like you can't get from Vulcanus to any of the other planets except Novice and this one other planet? Because I kind of had the impression you could just go like if you wanted, you could go from Novice to any other planet or from some other planet to any other planet. It would just take longer. But maybe you truly can only go like almost just one at a time. Like you can go from Novice to Vulcanus, and then from Vulcanus you can only go one further from that, and then once you get to this planet, you can only go to the next one, maybe. So this is really interesting to me. This definitely caught my eye when I was reading the Friday Facts. All this we pretty much know. There's tungsten and then calcite, I think it was, and this just shows like, oh yeah, and you can get like sulfur from like vents or whatever, and then all the stones and such like that, and then asteroids as well. It shows the type of asteroids, which is pretty neat. Some more stuff too, which I think maybe they're purposely not showing, or it's just not useful since it's the main info. But there's definitely another section or two below this. Enemies would be one thing, so they're definitely leaving that out. I'm sure enemies are down here. If an item has alternative recipes, they are also shown. So you can see light fuel used in this, and then this is other ways you can get light oil, basically. So heavy oil to light oil, advanced, and coal liquefaction. So that's really useful as well. And they say, since parts of the expansion can be toggled the same way as we do with mods, naturally Factoriopedia will support the information about any modded content added to the game. So that's super, super nice. So really, the FNEI mod and other ones like that pretty much are going to be obsolete. It is possible that the mod devs or other mod devs make new ones that take into account like all the new stuff in Factorio 2.0 and like use new features and stuff to make them better. But the fact this will just integrate with mods pretty much eliminates the need for those kind of look up encyclopedia mods. So this is super nice. And then also I really, really like the fact you can look at the quality aspects of the thing. So you can now exactly see. So like a normal substation 18 by 18, uncommon 2020, 22, 24, and then legendary is 28 by 28 coverage area, which is huge. So this is going to be really, really useful to just look at this and just see. I hope you can do this in some other part of another GUI or something too, but it will be really nice to see this information. And then these are the most obvious examples, and we covered many more similar kind of relationships to add discoverability. So that's super nice. And then alt is your friend. So this part I'm a little confused about. So Factoriopedia can be opened by clicking the dedicated button, but that isn't very convenient, especially when we're looking at an object of the game, scratching your heads saying what the hell is this supposed to do. So you can now use alt plus left click on anything basically, and you'll be transported into the correct Factoriopedia page. So currently alt triggers advanced info view. So I don't know if you can, like, honestly, I've never really tried it. If you combine it with another key, maybe it doesn't toggle advanced info view on and off, but they're either changing the hotkey or something, because otherwise, or maybe it just, like I said, when you combine it with another hotkey, it doesn't toggle it on and off, but I'm not 100% sure on that. Maybe anyone who's done that can confirm, but because right now, obviously, you wouldn't want to be toggling it on and off every single time you go to click open the Factoriopedia from an entity thing. So that's interesting as well. And then they say also, I think there's another use for it down here. So from this point, you can continue navigating the Factoriopedia. And then they say browse history. So this is super nice. To wrap things up, we have to address the elephant in the room in the form of the two arrows next to the search button it was up at the beginning. So when you navigate through GUIs in the game, they store the history of what you had open, which is really nice. So now you can use the standard Alt left arrow and then Alt right arrow to go backwards or forwards. Again, same question I have about Alt, but using it feels very natural, which is super nice rather than sitting there and clicking the buttons if you don't want to do that. So now you can look at previous things, which is, I think, going to be really useful with mods like Pi and other things that just have so many massive amount of recipes. Like for me, I would look at something when I tried it, and then I would just go to like something else I needed to make it, and I'd already forget the info about the first thing I looked at because there was just so much rattling around in my head. So just being able to very easily look through your history at the last few things or whatever is going to be super, super nice. So they end this off by saying this system was extended over time to include Factoriopedia, Technology GUI, Blueprint Library, Train Overview, and many others. So they basically are just referencing this up here, where the initial motivation for this system was the interaction with multiple planets and such. The typical scenario is when you do something remotely on a different planet and close the remote view, you can press the shortcut to return to where you left off immediately. So that's just in regards to the hotkeys. But anyway, that's the Friday Facts. I know I went on a little bit of tangent in regards to the like Easter egg stuff, but I do want to talk about it when we see it. If I missed anything like that, definitely let me know, and I would love to hear your thoughts as well. I know I asked for them previously in regards to this, but if anyone has more thoughts or additional thoughts on this information, like what it may be used for, I'm really curious because it definitely has like there's a reason for this being displayed and actually taken into account now, because this was never shown or never calculated prior to the expansion. Also, the day-night cycle, this is super short. I'm like 95% short. It's like 7 minutes on novice. So this is way shorter. This is I don't know what is that, like a third of around a third of the amount of time or less. So actually, it's less than a fourth. Sorry, I think less than a fourth of the amount of time. Now I imagine like gravity would probably take into account when figuring out the robot energy usage. I do also find it interesting that could be different per planet, and this is a little perplexing, but yeah, this is super interesting, and I'm also curious about how the connections are going to work. But overall, really good stuff. Quality of life. I think next week, Colonel Will and I were talking about patterns of Friday Facts and what he had figured out, and if the pattern holds, then hopefully next week should be like some really juicy, big, brand new content. This was quality of life, obviously, and last week was more just behind the scenes improvements. So this is still great. Quality of life, never going to complain about it. Really, really fantastic. I'd love to hear your thoughts below. If you're excited about this, definitely leave a like on the video. And again, I'd love to hear your thoughts and such down below. And if you're new, welcome. And feel free to keep up with all future content, to subscribe to keep up with all future content. You can go ahead and subscribe there. And then until next time, I look forward to seeing you all, and do take care.